Hello everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. So this is the first time I'm recording video after that copyright issue happened on all Pega related videos on YouTube. So during this it didn't happen to me, but I had to delete all the videos, and then I lost all my watch hours. So whatever the hours you guys have watched, all those things I've lost it. Okay, so that's fine, because the motive here is, or the goal is to learn together. Okay, more and more I can create videos so that you can watch and learn um, easily. Okay, so that is the main goal here. So so one more thing here I want to say, that usually I don't ask for subscribing and all those things, but I'll do request to subscribe, so that I want these videos to reach out to more and more folks, because if you subscribe and share to your friends, okay, they can also watch and get some help. Okay, so that's it. And so let's come back to our today's topic. Okay, so the today's topic is learn common Pega production issues and how to handle it. Okay, so we must have heard so many memes and other things on the production issues. Okay, but this is one of the very important topics. Okay, and this is not that uh, you should only know when you're working as a production support. Okay, you should know if you are a lead, like anyone should know if you're working on a Pega. Okay, because today or tomorrow you'll be facing this kind of a thing, so definitely. So I have noted down few of the points. Okay, I'll not show anything in Pega today. Okay, I'll discuss those points, and I'll also explain that when we get that issue and what could be the remediations or the resolutions of those issues. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, so I'll show the next slide. So here I have noted common production issues and how to handle it. So let's see one by one. Okay, so the numbering is not in a kind of a, it's not, I don't think that, okay, this is the number, okay, this is how we'll get that issue. You can get any issue anytime. Okay, so the first one I have mentioned. Okay, and this, like, one more thing, one important thing is that these issues are combined means that you can get these issues while productions deployment and or in a BAU means you have not deployed any issue, sorry, you have not deployed any code, but you are getting a production issues. Okay, so that happens all of a sudden. So let's see that. So the first one is missing rule or data instances. Okay, so this is a very common issues or the common mistakes which we do when we move our code to productions. Okay, so what happened while packaging, if we do not have enough review, okay, then we miss a few of the things. Okay, and in my experience, what we usually miss is the data instances. Rule we usually do not miss. Okay, data instances we miss. And what kind of a data instances we miss is that we miss class instances some of the times we miss dynamic system setting instances, or database table DB instances also we missed, or we miss that work basket things also. Okay, so these are the things if you're missing a rule. Okay, and then maybe we can catch early, but sometimes we do not like think much after code deployment. We do not do much tech PIB on the data instances side. Okay, so we understood that issue, that we miss it, and the next thing is that how we can remediate this kind of issue. Okay, so the remediation is very simple. Okay, that when you are creating a product, okay, you have to make sure that when you're creating a product, you have to make sure that it goes for multiple rounds of review. Okay, so that is one thing you can do. You have to make sure that all the data instances is reviewed by everyone. Okay, and you should create a list of all those data instances and make sure that you have added it in your product. And the most important things, okay, that while taking the package, make sure that your application or the access group have only that much instances which is going to be production. Okay, because sometimes what happens, we take the, while taking the package, okay, I'm taking the package, let's say, on a particular day, but we have already started the development for the next release. Okay, and we have added the rule set version, or few of the things which might not required for this product. Okay, so but if we take the product, it will come together and it will create problem in productions. Okay, so that is the third point I have mentioned here. The deploying rule which referencing rule doesn't exist in prod. Okay, so like the one example is that, let's say that you have moved the access group and you have added another access role, okay, in that access group for the next release. Okay, but that access rule you are not moving, but this access group is required, so you are moving this access group. So then when you deploy the code and try to log in with that access group, so when you're trying to log in, let's say that the user having the same access group, then its system will throw error, okay, because that it is not able to find the referencing rule. So that is where you have to make sure that while taking the product, you have to clean up that applications, all the data instances, be it applications, be it a work basket, because in a work basket also, there could be chances that you have referred something which is not required for this release, for your next release testing, okay. So that is very much important. Your application should be as same as what you're going to have it in productions, okay. Once you took the package, you can again update it so that you can start the development for the next release, okay. So in that way I have covered that step 1 and 3, okay. The step 2 is missing database script, okay, like additions of a table or column, okay. So this also we miss few of the times. We usually do not miss a kind of a creations of table, okay, because when we are going for the first times, okay, or like if we are including a new table, uh, we try to have it that script, but sometimes I have seen that we miss the column, okay, that in lower environment, okay, we have added, let's say, 4 or 5 columns, but in production somehow, okay, if we do not review enough, then we miss 1 or 2 columns, and we have exposed only like if you have to expose 5, we expose 3 only or 2. Okay, so this is one of the issues I have seen. Another issue also, that even after the execution of a script, sometimes uh, the business scenario fails for these columns, okay. So the reason is, sometimes like we executed the scripts from that, let's say from the database side, okay, but to sync up that, we need to save that database table DB instances. If you do not do, okay, then sometimes the sync up doesn't happens between the Pega and database. But now, like that issue is very rare, like the chances is less. The reason is, now we can include our DB script also in the Pega only, okay. So that chances is less, because when Pega executes that, it's tried to sync up as well. You must have seen this one. When you're deploying a package, first Pega deploys the DB script, DB changes, DB schema changes, and then it deploys the code, okay. So in that way we can avoid, but yeah, I've seen this issue as well. The fourth one is, we have already talked about third, okay. Fourth one is code didn't compile, okay. If you're deploying RUF is rule utility function. So basically sometimes what happens, we need to write Java functions for some of the features, so we do write in activity steps also, but that we should avoid, okay. If you like, I mean, altogether Java we should avoid, but if you really need it, create a rule utility functions, okay. What happens, that we deployed the code, okay, and but we didn't restarted our system, okay. So when we do not restart, or we restarted but we didn't restart it with the clean cache restart, okay. So some of the times the functions didn't get compiled, okay, and we get an issue when we try to execute the business scenario, okay, in which we are using these functions, okay. So to handle this scenario, okay, if you have already restarted, then you might not face any issue, okay. Or if you have restarted also, sometimes you face an issue because you have not deleted that cache, okay. So what happens when we do clear cache, then it will read, it tries to compile everything, okay. So in that way system will make sure that it's compiling your new functions as well, okay. Or you don't want to restart the system, so the another way is you can try to revalidate and save, okay. So maybe for the juniors, okay, this question is that what is revalidate and save, so you try to find it. If not, then post in comment sections, I'll have another video on that, how we can revalidate and save the rule in productions, okay, because sometimes it is very much required. So if you do a revalidate and save, okay, the chances is that this issue will go away. The next one is drop down values, okay, are not populating, okay, or the data page is not flushed, okay. So what happens in this scenario, again this is the same scenario where like you were deploying or that while doing the business is adding some new values so that it will populate in the drop down. So let's say your business is supporting in 5 countries, okay, and during the deployment your business is adding another 5 country. So after additions of those 5 country, okay, business is complaining that they are not getting in the drop down, okay. So what could be the reason? So the reason is that to show that this country drop down, you might be using either requester or notable data pages, okay. So if you just add the value, that's not enough, okay. You need to go and flush the data pages, okay. But if you're doing that while code deployment only if you're doing, if you're adding those rows, okay, and then doing the system restart, then obviously when system restart will happen, the database will form again, okay, it will reinitialize, okay, so then and those values will come. But if you're doing after restart and then just business executing the functionality, then definitely it will not populate, okay. So I've seen that some of the times, okay, developers will get panic, oh, why we have added the value but why it's not populating, okay. So because what happens many of the times that you are supporting that, okay, because the team gets changes all of a sudden, okay, because and you have to support, like you have newly joined the team and then you have to support that release, okay, so you don't know much idea, you don't have much idea about the code. So even if you don't have that much idea, like with these things you should know that, okay, the values is not populating, let's go and check that the value is getting populated through the database, and if the database has been flushed after the addition of value, okay, so these kind of a things you need to take care. The sixth one is routing issue due to unavailability of work basket or users. So this is again related to the functionality one, that we do a tech code deployment, and after that while testings we face that, okay, our flow is going to a error flow, okay. So the reason sometimes what happens that work basket, whatever the work basket we are using, okay, that doesn't exist, okay. So the this issue happens, like again this is a classic, this is another example of missing data instances, that you have you are supposed to like kind of deploy 5 work basket and you missed 2, or you missed all of the 5. So when and your code is using those work baskets name, so if work basket doesn't exist in the system, then flow will go to error flow, okay, and you'll see this kind of a issue. So most of the routing issue happened because of these things only, that the person or that work basket you're writing doesn't exist in the system, okay. So whenever you are seeing from the next time that any routing issue, simply go and check that assigned as work basket or assigned as work list instances there in that XML. Once you open that XML, you'll see that the answer, okay, you'll see error property, in that one you'll see the detail that what is the answer. The seventh one is due to business logic, some functionality not working or some exception scenario, okay. With that, because of that one, it's not working. So the question is, okay, what we can do with this scenario, okay, because this is related to business, okay. So this kind of a scenario, okay, usually when happens, like because when we do the testing in lower environment, okay, we might, or our tester or the QA team have doesn't cover this scenario, okay, or this is happening because maybe you are using some service, okay, in this business conditions, and that service is not returning the data the way you are expecting, okay. So there could be a multiple scenarios. So in this scenario, what you have to do, you have to reproduce with the similar kind of data in non-prod, and see if you're able to reproduce it. If you reproduce it, well and good, okay, because once you know the root cause, you can fix it. But let's see if you're unable to do it, okay, so in that case you need to go for that tracing. So you need to trace that the PIV user sessions and try to find out, or the business user sessions, and try to find out that what is happening. If any service is involved, okay, you should run that service also either through the postman, or run the database directly by passing the parameter and analyze the data, that the data is coming in line the way you have tested or developed in the lower environment. So that is how we can solve this issue. And also for this issue we can see the log as well, that if you're getting any exceptions, okay, because many of the times happens the way things business works in a little different way, okay, they uses the applications in a little different way, so we get some scenario, some exception scenario. The 8th point is sudden okay, email functionality not working, okay. I have seen this issue in many of the places, that all of a sudden email functionality was working, okay, but one very fine day we got a morning, like in a morning we got a save one that email functionality is not working. So in these kind of a things, okay, when we have not changed anything, definitely there is no code issue, okay. So as a lead developer or the support analyst, you don't have to panic, because this is not your fault. What you have to do is you have to check that log, because once you check the log, you'll find out that what is the issue, okay. Sorry. So you'll see issues or that like exceptions related transport, email, or something mail exceptions, okay. So the what could be the reason why email will not work all of a sudden, okay. So there are like multiple reasons. One is that whitelist issue, okay. Maybe you are onboarding that first time that email account, and that has not been on whitelisted for that external users or something. because your system is trying to send an email outside of your organization. So that is one issue. The second issue is that password, okay, password issue, that password is either expired or the certificate you are using, cert issue, certificate you are using, that is expired. So this kind of a things happen. The 9 point is very important, and 9 and 10 is related. Changes happen to integrated system or the external system. So Pega is not a source system, so we do not keep that data. Okay, mostly we try to fetch the data from some external system. Okay, so what kind of issues we face in this scenario, that all of a sudden some service is not working and users are reporting that they are unable to submit that case. Okay, or they can report that they are unable to log in to the system. Okay, so there could be chances that SSO is failing. Okay, SSO can fail, right? There is why SSO can fail, because the other system made some changes. Okay, or they updated their certificate, or they updated their endpoint URL, which is not updated at Pega side. Okay, so usually that communications happen, usually most of the times that communications happen in within organizations, that if any related system is making change, but some of the times if they miss, okay, to update, or if they fail to update, okay, then this issue can happen. Okay, the next one is service issue due to incorrect endpoint URL or certificate issue. Okay, so yeah, it's the same thing, like a 9.9 only, that okay, your business users are reporting that they are unable to submit the screens. Okay, or they're reporting that they are unable to see the values in the drop down, because that value is coming from some external system. Okay, so if any changes to endpoint and or the certificate issue, then it will not work. One other issue also we see for the services, that when we are moving for the first time. Okay, for first time, whenever we move the connectors, okay, connectors, we face this kind of issue. Okay, you'll not see that it's working on very smoothly. Other reason is that endpoint URL, so mostly we store endpoint URL in DSS, dynamic system settings, and then or the application system settings, and then through the database we populate. Okay, or that we directly refer that application system settings in nowadays in connect roles. Okay, so what happens, we move the code from dev environment or from the non-prod, and then we forget to change that endpoint URL in productions, or we forget to change the certificate, or if you're using OAuth, then you forget to change the client secret, because client ID will be mostly same, but you forget to change few of the things. So if you forget to change, okay, then it will fail, because it will expect the production's value. Okay, so that it can handshake and connect successfully to other system. Okay, so these kind of a issue happen. So whenever you are deploying any services, basically connect rule, then you need to list down all the endpoints URL, and you need to make sure that before after code deployment you need to update these. Okay, and verify during your technical PIV. Because so what is technical PIV here? If you're a beginner, you don't know, technical PIV is after code deployment it happens. Technical PIV means whatever the code we are deploying, okay, it should be there in the system, so everything should get deployed, and it happens before the business PIV. So business PIV is business do the testing. The next one is timeout issue or performance issue. Okay, so these also very common examples which happen mostly in production. Okay, so let's say you deployed, and then business users started creating case, and then they're complaining that okay, screen is loading very slow. Okay, so or if they're running any report, okay, report is taking very long time, or they're getting timeout issue on the screen. Okay, so what is the reason for this one? So the reason is that the amount of data which you have tested, okay, for any scenario is less in non-prod, but in productions you see the heavy or the huge data. Okay, so what happens, the conditions whatever you have applied as filter conditions, with that, okay, in productions you are getting tons of data. Okay, so you cannot display that much data, or the report whatever that you're running, okay, it will take good amount of time. Okay, so the report issue mostly happens that okay, you'll see that okay, non-prod it's working fine, but when we are moving to productions it's either getting timeout issue, because sometimes what happens, okay, in report definitions we mention that after this much time if you're not getting a result, okay, then say time down. Okay, or in report also we see that okay, the column is not exposed. So the column exposed we already discussed on point 2. So how to tackle or how to handle this kind of issue, report issue? So the one is, if you're you can try to have the similar set of data in non-prod, but which is very difficult. You cannot replicate the productions in non-prod. Okay. So to handle this kind of a things, what you can do is, okay, first things is that you do the performance test in non-environment. Okay. Sorry, in lower environment, and okay, if for the report, even the performance test will not help, but at least for the screen, okay, where you are getting the data, you can do, and make sure to review all the queries, okay, that okay, and you have a proper indexes on those query, and your filter condition is perfect means that yes, you should not get uh, too much data in production. Okay, you can maybe analyze during that time only, you can analyze the data, how much data you have in production. Okay, so this is for the data which you are loading on the screen. But for the report, okay, it's a very difficult to catch in product in performance test, also in non-prod. So what you can do, you can have some settings for those conditions. Okay, so mostly, okay, where we face issue is that on the date range. Okay, so let's say in non-prod that the same functionality is working for 6 months date range, but the same thing will not in productions for the same date range, because in productions you have a huge data. So for to handle this kind of a scenario, you should have some settings where you can change the conditions, okay, from 6 months. Okay, so that from 6 months you can change it to 1 month. Okay, so that it will at least give us the data, it will not fail. So that is one thing. Then the 12th one is unwanted agent or scheduler is running. Okay, so if you see unwanted agent or that connects services, also connect rest, one of the connect rest is there which connects to PDN Pega systems to get some data or some latest update. So you might have to disable that one. Okay, so what happens otherwise, you'll not face any issue, or your business will not see any issue, but it will impact the overall health of the system, because it will keep on trying and it will try to print lot of things in that log. Okay, and also Pega have some agents related to social media, FB and other things. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have a proper list, and then you are verifying that with that list only, you are making sure that these many agents or schedulers should run. Okay, otherwise it will it will run and unnecessary, and it will throw a lot of exceptions which will impact your system, okay, and your system memory, and it can just sometimes it will bring down also your system. So that is this is the list. Okay, I have covered for the common production issues, and also on a high level I covered how to handle it. So if you have any more points, okay, just add it in the comment section, so that other person can also learn. So the next things which we learn is that steps to follow to resolve prod issue when no deployment happened. Okay, so this is again it's related what we have covered in that last slide, but this is little different also. So this is when no code deployment happened. Now all of a sudden one fine morning you are receiving some prod issue. Okay, so the question is why I'm receiving the prod issue all of a sudden? Okay, because the system is running, I didn't change anything. Okay, but still you can get this kind of issue. So when you go for an interview, many people ask these questions, that if you're working, or if you're a lead developer, okay, LSA, or if you're working in a production support, how you can handle this kind of a situation. So I have seen that many developers, okay, gets panic when they see that, okay, you one fine morning you receive a save one. Okay, so then, but you don't have to be panic, you need to understand few steps. Like if you follow these steps, you'll be definitely able to resolve that quickly. So the first thing is that we need to understand the issue by getting enough detail from the business support team. So let's say that, okay, you connected with the business support team and asked what is the issue. Okay, so let's say they're saying, okay, users are unable to log in. Okay, then you can predict. Okay, you have to, based on your experience, you need to predict, okay, if the user is unable to log in, then there could be issue with the SSO service. Okay, if the business is saying, oh no, they're getting some issue on the UI, okay, you can expect that there could be some issue with the service. Okay, so whenever I'm talking with the issue with the service or something, that means some changes happen to the other system. Okay, or the certificate got expired, or the password or the secret code which you are using, that got expired. Because of that, you can get this kind of a issue. Or they can complain that when they're submitting, okay, they're getting some service issue. Okay, so mostly this happen, okay, when you have not deployed any code changes. Most of the times, 70% of the times, you don't get any code error, you get this kind of a issue only when others made some changes or something related to system. Okay, let's say that one node is went down because of some memory issue or thread dump issue. So in that case, when business is trying to do something, it won't work, or like thread dump happen and then business the browser got stuck. Okay, so these kind of issues will happen. Okay, or that one particular issue is only reproducible, okay, or happening in one of the users. Okay, it's not happening across. So this kind of a issue happens. The next thing is that find out if any changes happen to your integrated system. So this is again, like I explained, that you need to find out, okay, that based on that whatever that input you are getting from the support team, okay, based on that you need to see that you need to ask this question, that any changes happen to the other system. Okay, maybe you need to have a, you need to open a communications channel, webex or teams. You need to go into that meeting and ask that is there any related any changes happen to the related system. Okay, next thing is that even if you're like no one is not like saying okay that what happened, okay, or you don't have any communications channel where you can ask that what had happened to other system, like if anyone have made any changes or not. So then the best way is to get that log from productions, okay, and analyze that log. Once you see that log, you'll definitely see if any things is failing related to services. Okay, you'll be able to easily find out, and then you can connect to that team and able to resolve that. Okay, the fourth one is that let's say you are getting some particular issue related with some cases. Okay, so in that case what you have to do, some set of cases. Okay, so then what you have to do is, okay, you can get that case XML. Okay, case XML is the entire PY walk page, because see if you're going mostly we don't have the productions system access, right? So we cannot debug that issue if you are like working in a dev team. So in that case you can get that case XML or PY walk page data. So what you have to do, production support team can do is they can open the case, and then on the clipboard PY walk page, when they'll right click, they'll get the entire detail of case in XML. So you can get that XML, compare that business logic, compare the service logics. Okay, those kind of things you can compare with the non-prod. The fifth is that once you have that that XML and other details, okay, you can try to have that similar data sets and reproduce this issue in non-prod. Okay, also if you're getting some and after that also if you're seeing that check the query in alert log. So if someone is reporting all of a sudden performance issue, okay, so then maybe in that case you can see this query as well, because some of the times what happens, maybe you have applied some conditions through the parameter. Okay, so I have seen this kind some of the times that parameter value is not getting passed. Okay, so in that case what will happen, the query will become open and it will try to fetch lot of data. Okay, so in that case it will bring down the system also. Okay, so that kind of issue happen. The next thing is that try to trace the user session. Okay, so I have seen that when I ask this question in interview, people say this is the first things. Okay, whenever I ask that, okay, if you're getting all of a sudden production issue, what will be your approach? So then they say, okay, I'll go and trace the user session. No, you cannot trace the user session. Okay, just once you receive that any production issue, you should have that enough details that why this issue is happening, because business users will not agree. Okay, for this one, I mean definitely have to go, but you should have that enough details. So that is where I have mentioned this step in the last only. Okay, you can trace that user sessions, and then after tracing you can analyze the traces, and based on that you can debug your issue. The last one is restart that affected JVMs. Okay, so some of the times what happens, okay, because of some unwanted query or something, okay, we get the thread dump, and because of the thread dump, okay, or because of the memory loss, okay, memory leak, okay, our system get down, so the performance or like the CPU usage will be very high. So in that kind of a scenario we need to restart our affected JVMs, okay, to resolve that issue. So that's it on a high level. Okay, maybe the sequence can be up and down, but usually we should follow the similar things only, okay, to handle any production issues. So that's it for today's sessions, and I have talked a lot about tracer, log, and few other things. Okay, so if you're a beginner, junior, okay, if you're not aware, okay, maybe then I'll create another sessions, okay, on these debugging tools, okay, one more video. Okay, so in that way we can learn those tools as well. So that's it for today's sessions. I hope you like this one. Okay, and then if you're liking, just please do subscribe and share with your friends as well, so that they can also learn. So thank you very much. Have a good day.